Hi everyone, a while ago I've shown you how to make buttermilk scones. This time I'm going to show you how to make buttermilk biscuits. This time I'm going to add an egg. I know there are some disagreements about adding eggs to make scones or to make biscuits, but it's all about preference. I am a scone person, my husband is a biscuit person, but we both agree that the scones and the biscuits that I make are the best to our taste. So it's all up to you if you want to add eggs or not to make the scones or the biscuits. To make these buttermilk biscuits, of course, we're gonna need buttermilk. I am using a store-bought buttermilk, but if you cannot find store-bought buttermilk, that you may make it yourself by mixing, because we're gonna use 3/4 cup of buttermilk. You're gonna need 3/4 cup of milk and 3/4 tablespoon of white vinegar, and then you're gonna stir them together and then let it sit for 10 minutes before using it. If you do not want to use buttermilk, you may also use regular milk. One thing you need to keep in mind is to make fluffy biscuits, you need to use a very cold butter. So not just cold butter, you need to use cold eggs, you need to use cold milk or buttermilk, everything cold. Okay, like I said, we're gonna need a very cold butter, right? So we are using a 3/4 cup of unsalted butter. So 3/4 cup means 1.5 sticks, so 12 tablespoons of butter. I have 3/4 cup of butter, and then we want to cut this butter into smaller, very small pieces, or grate it. Okay, last time to make scones, I've shown you that I actually just shred the butter using knife, but this time I'm gonna grate it using a cheese grater. This butter is already cold, so it's easy to grate it. All right, so you can also grate your butter the night before and keep your butter into your freezer until the next day when you want to make the biscuits. That's what I normally do, actually. So I'm done grating my butter, and this is not as cold anymore because I handled it already. So what I'm gonna do is to wrap this shredded or grated butter again, and then put it back into the freezer while I am preparing the rest of the ingredients. You may leave it in the freezer for 30 minutes or even longer. Okay, it have to be very cold. So I thought I would be able to make the biscuits on the same day I grated the butter, but I got caught up with something yesterday. So I left my butter in the freezer for whole night, which is totally fine because I need to use frozen butter anyway. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do now to make biscuits is to mix the dry ingredients. We're gonna need 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and I would want to shift my flour as usual. And then I'm gonna add 7 teaspoons of baking powder. 7 teaspoons of baking powder is the same with 2 tablespoons and 1 teaspoon. So I'm gonna just use a tablespoon here. 1, 2, and adding 1 teaspoon. All right, and I need 1.5 teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna need sugar, 2 teaspoons of sugar, but I'm going to sieve this first because my sugar is not so fine, so it won't get through the colander. All right, so 2 teaspoons of sugar, and we're going to mix them together. Now I'm going to add in the frozen butter. So you see my grated butter is frozen already. This is what I normally do anyway. I grated the butter the night before. Okay, now we're going to cut the butter with the flour. Okay, I'm using a pastry cutter, but you can use fork if you do not have pastry cutter. Okay, so you just want to cut it until you see this a P shape on your mixture. Okay, so you do not want to play with the butter and flour too long. You just want to do it until you see the form of a P shape in your mixture here, okay? In your butter, flour butter mixture. You want to set it aside. And then I'm going to mix my buttermilk with an egg if you are using egg. So we're gonna use 3/4 cup of buttermilk. If you are using milk instead of buttermilk, then you wanna reduce the amount of your milk because buttermilk is very thick compared to milk. Okay, so if you're using milk, you probably wanna use instead of 3/4 cup, you deduct like 1 or 2 tablespoons. So I shook the buttermilk. So the buttermilk is kind of foamy, right? So it's not exactly 3/4 cup. It's a little bit more than 3/4 cup because of the foam, which is okay. I might need more later anyway if my dough seems to be a little bit too dry. So I added the egg and I'm going to whisk together. Okay, we're going to combine the wet ingredient into the dry ingredient. Okay, now using the pastry cutter or your fork, you're going to combine them. So mix them together first with the tool, okay? Either with your fork or your pastry cutter. And then I'm going to transfer this dough onto my countertop to a surface. Remember that you want the dough to stay cold. That's why you do not want to play or handle the dough too long. All right, so before I transfer the dough onto the surface, so I'm going to dust it with flour, some flour. Transfer. Okay, so now we're gonna work using our hands. Just stick them together. Okay, so we want to knead the dough gently, okay? Not too hard. And we definitely do not want to overwork on the dough, because the more you need or you work on the dough, the more you create gluten. You do not want to create gluten when you're making biscuit or scones. Okay, so now look that my dough kind of stick together. All right, my dough is feel a little bit too dry. I can add a little bit more buttermilk, or you may also use an iced cold water. Okay. Okay, so this is now a little sticky, which is good. Okay. All right. So remember, we do not want to knead too long or overwork on the dough. So I am done kneading the dough, but I need to dust my surface again. Okay, what I'm gonna do now, we want to roll out this dough. I'm gonna add flour on the top. So to make the biscuits more flaky, we want to roll out the dough using rolling pin. Okay. And then I'm going to fold the dough like an envelope, like this. All right, and then turn it over so the seam now will be facing the countertop. Okay, and that's it. Now all I need to do is just to flatten the dough and shape the dough to make the biscuit shape. Okay, this is sticky. Dust it again. You may use your rolling pin or your hand. Okay, how thick you want to make the biscuit, it's up to you. The thicker biscuit you're making, sometimes it's prone to collapse. Okay, so normally I make a 1 inch thickness, but this time probably 3/4 inch. Okay, so I forgot to butter my pan, so buttering the pan. If you have cast iron, you may use your cast iron too to create more crispy bottom, but this time I'm gonna just use regular pan. To shape the biscuit, you need a biscuit cutter. Okay, I'm using 2.5 inches of biscuit cutter. If you do not have biscuit cutter, then you may just use knife and cut it into square shapes. Okay, because it's hard to cut it round, right, with a knife. When you're using the biscuit cutter, you do not want to twist. Okay, you just want to press it down. Okay, like that, like this. And then put it on the pan. Remember, do not twist. And you want to place the biscuits close to each other to help the biscuits rise tall. So now when you see the scrape like this, you wanna fold them together, press them together. Okay, so I made 11 2.5 inches biscuit, and I am left with this small dough. Okay, so here is my biscuit. I have touched or handled these biscuits, right? So the dough is not as cold anymore. So I'm going to keep this biscuits into my freezer for 20 minutes. And meanwhile, I'm going to preheat my oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so it is 20 minutes already in the freezer. So before I put my biscuits into the oven, I'm going to brush the top with buttermilk or milk if you are not using buttermilk. Okay. If you do not want to bake it on the same day, just put this frozen biscuit into Ziploc bag and then keep them into the freezer until the time you want to bake. And just add the like 2 or 3 minutes into your baking time, okay? Alright, now I'm going to bake this for 15 to 20 minutes at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, I'm gonna check after 15 minutes. Alright, so my biscuit after 18 minutes. You see how they rose very well. Now I'm going to brush the top with melted butter. This is optional. You don't have to do it. So when I check after 15 minutes, I noticed that the top was not golden color yet, so I added 3 more minutes. So now I'm gonna just let these biscuits sitting on the pan for like 10 minutes. Alright, so here comes my favorite part is trying the biscuits. Okay, look at these biscuits. You can tell that this biscuit is flaky from all these layers that you can see. So I cut the biscuit like 3/4 inches. That's why it rose and then create this tall biscuit. But if you do not like tall biscuit, then just flatten your dough shoulder, like probably like 1/2 inches, right? So let's open this flaky biscuit. Okay, flaky biscuit, that's why you can open it up like this. So some people like eating the biscuits with butter and honey, with jam, or just eat it plain, because this biscuit is already have a salty taste. Like my husband, he likes eating biscuit plain, but I personally like eating the biscuit with jam. So I'm gonna add jam onto my biscuit, but let me try it plain first. This biscuit is so crispy outside, but the inside is so moist. It's not dry at all, unlike some biscuits that I've tried before. This is very moist, very fluffy, very light, really good. So I'm gonna add peach jam on my biscuit because I like the combination of the saltiness from the biscuit itself and the sweetness from the jam. So perfect. So if you do not finish all the biscuits on the same day, you want to keep them for the next day or for a few days, what you can do is whenever you want to eat the biscuit, just throw the biscuits into the convection oven and reheat it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 minutes. And then the biscuit's gonna taste like really fresh, crispy and moist inside. Really good. So I hope you enjoy the video and see you next time.
This is as good as any biscuit I ever ate in life.